and I decided I wanted to be a financial planner because I could really help people. And I also learned from one of my mentors that the average people you hang out with, the 5 or 10 average people you hang out with, is going to dictate your income and your net worth. So I started working with clients who had a lot of money. I'm talking hundreds of millions, 50 million, and then ones that were smaller too. And all of a sudden, I started really seeing that some had really great lives, like ones that you and I would want, and others were like, oh my God, like you couldn't give me any amount of money to have their life. And I started thinking, like, there's more to this. What is this? Why is it that some people have amazing lives, others struggle? Some people have money and struggle. Some people have money and have an amazing life. And it really got me really interested in what was going on. What is the psychology behind it?
So I thought it'd be helpful if I could give you a little bit of background of how I discovered the Millionaire Insider Secrets. If you want to skip the background and just dive into the secrets, I begin at 6 minutes and 15 seconds.
So hey there, it's Annette Ba'u, and welcome to the Millionaire Insider. I'm so excited to be here with you. This has been a long time coming, and this is my way of giving back. I have been so blessed in my life in so many ways, and I just hope that I can provide you insight and wisdom that will help you get on a direct flight to your goals and your dreams. What I'd like to do before we dive into the 12 Millionaire Insider Secrets, I want to just give you a little bit of background. So when I was in 4th grade, I won a spelling bee, and I felt so good. And my teacher said something to me that literally changed the trajectory of my life, and hopefully it will yours too. She said, and to think, Annette, you're only using 8 to 12% of your brain. And I'm like, I asked the logical question, well, what does that mean? What about the other 88 to 92%? And she goes, no one really knows. We just know you're not using all of your brain. No one is. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I got to figure it out. So then fast forward, I was raised in a very blue collar home. My father was a plumber. He had an 8th grade education. My mother cleaned homes, and she was a seamstress. We got by. We always had to act like we didn't have any money. I mean, it was the most bizarre raising of a child. And the one message I got loud and clear was like, people with money aren't honest, they're not really good. And it was just so funny. I mean, like, you think, where do these beliefs come from? And then in high school, I started working as a waitress. And a lot of the people that would frequent our restaurants, it was a small town in the Midwest, were millionaires. And I became fascinated by their lives because they were traveling, they had nice cars, they always left me good tips. Money never seemed to be an issue, whereas in my family, money was always an issue. And I was like, oh my God, this is the key. This is the key out of this life I've got to where I'm going to become a millionaire. And then I'm going to be so happy, healthy, and everything's going to be great. So then when I was 16, I got hired by one of the millionaires to do research. And what I started noticing was that while he was really successful in business, his personal life, not so much. He had a serious drinking problem, and he just had a lot of issues. And I remember thinking, well, I want to have money, but I don't want to be an alcoholic. I don't want to be on my 5th marriage. And so it was kind of like a light bulb went on of saying, what is it? And I still didn't know, but it just got my curiosity piqued. So then I went to college and ended up transferring to ASU and started looking at different careers. And I decided I wanted to be a financial planner because I could really help people. And I also learned from one of my mentors that the average people you hang out with, the 5 or 10 average people you hang out with, is going to dictate your income and your net worth. So I started working with clients who had a lot of money. I'm talking hundreds of millions, 50 million. And then ones that were smaller too. And all of a sudden, I started really seeing that some had really great lives, like ones that you and I would want, and others were like, oh my God, like you couldn't give me any amount of money to have their life. And I started thinking, like, there's more to this. What is this? Why is it that some people have amazing lives, others struggle? Some people have money and struggle. Some people have money and have an amazing life. And it really got me really interested in what was going on. What is the psychology behind it? Then I became a millionaire in my 30s, and like not much changed. And I thought, well, maybe it's not just being a millionaire. Maybe it's another million. Maybe it's another million. And you get to 4 or 5 million and you realize another million is not going to solve the issue of not being enough, of not being happy. And that was when I really dove into the psychology of wealth and millionaire mindset and really started looking at what's really going on here. Now I've spent over 30 years advising the top 1% and 2% of millionaires, as well as running one of the most successful performance masterminds in the world. And in my advising, my strategizing, and my researching millionaires and successful people and people who struggle, who can't quite get it together, I've been able to really identify what people that do have amazing lives, amazing businesses, do differently. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you in the Millionaire Insider, and that's why it's so exciting. It's been my entire life goal of figuring this out. And while I will never disclose confidential information about a client, a lot of my clients have allowed me to use their insight in my research. And what I can do in my research is I can tell more of what is really true and what's not. Because a lot of times when you interview people or you research people and you meet them for an hour or two, let's face it, right? You don't get the full scoop. When you've spent 30 years in their life, you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's what I want to share with you so that it can help you on your journey. So now we're going to dive into the 12 Millionaire Insider Secrets you need to succeed. And obviously there are a lot more, but these are 12 core ones that are going to really help you. So let's dive in. So the first thing I want to give you is just a resource. If you go to millionaireseries.com/20MIS, there are 20 Millionaire Insider Secrets there. Some of the ones I share today are in there, but there's a lot of other ones. That's a great resource for you if you want additional resources. Now, because I am a certified financial planner and because I am an investment advisor, I have to give a disclosure. And so at each of my videos, you're going to see this disclosure, and you have to agree to it to stay on my site. But the materials, forms, and intellectual property are copywritten by themillionaireseries.com. The information I provide is not intended as investment, financial, or health advice. Before beginning any plan, you agree to consult with your own team of advisors and to review your situation. All participants agree to hold millionaireseries.com and its affiliates harmless for results achieved or not achieved, and any reproduction of this material is allowed only with written authorization from the millionaireseries.com. All international copyrights are reserved. So that's all we have to do, but you do have to agree with it to participate. So let's dive into the 12 insider secrets you need to succeed. So the first thing you've got to do is you've got to decide. That's one of the most important critical elements, and it's where a lot of people miss. You've got to decide, where do you want to live? What does your life look like? When do you get up in the morning? When do you go to bed? How many kids do you have? Are you married? Do you have a partner? Where do you want to travel? What impact do you want to make? How much money do you need to live your dream life? The next thing is focus. So in episode 117, we're diving deep into mindset and focus. But what you've got to learn is you've got to understand that to focus, it requires that you calm down your limbic brain. Our limbic brain is our brain that's 2 million years old. It's the brain that is kind of fight or flight. It's there to protect us. It's there to conserve calories. And the problem is when our limbic brain's in charge, it's kind of like we're in the passenger seat of a car and we're not driving it. And the car is out of control. It's a problem, right? So what we've got to do is we've got to calm that limbic brain down. One of the most effective strategies is focused breathing. And you can put your feet flat on the ground, put your palms either in a mudra or flat, whatever you're comfortable with, or up. If you feel really nervous, anxious, flat or down. If you feel really enlightened and inspired, up or flat. And you breathe in to the count of 8 through your nose, hold it for 8, and release for 12. Again, into the count of 8, hold it for 8, and release for 12. Ideally, each day you're completing 4 to 6 business power hours per day, followed by a power break. And a power break is 7 minutes of moving your arms, moving your legs. The first part of the power break after you've done your cardio is doing your focused breathing. Start with just 5. If you want to do 10, do 10. But 5, ideally, focused breathing. You can do another 5 where you're breathing in what you want more of. Love, peace of mind, abundance, prosperity. Hold it, seeing it permeating every cell of your being, and then release. So those are very, very effective. And then set your intention for the next power hour. Now, ideally, 4 to 6 business power hours a day, and those are 50 to 70 minutes of laser focus, and 1 to 2 personal power hours. And personal power hours can be time when you're doing your yoga, your focused breathing, prayer, stretches, whatever you need to do to have a really solid foundation so you feel at your best. That's the key. The next secret is to create a winning formula. And we're going to dive deep into your formula in episode 101. If you go to millionaireseries.com/MI, you'll be able to go access all of these. And I'm going to give you the episode just so that you're aware of where it is so you can go there if you want to dive deeper on it. But in episode 101, we're going to dive deep into the formula. So one of the things that I found when I started working with millionaires is that everyone has a formula. You're operating from a formula, I'm operating from a formula, everyone is. And the formula that I identified is inner game, which is your foundation, game plan, which is your strategy, and outer game, which is your execution. And we all have different components of it. A lot of times people that are millionaires or multimillionaires or top producers spend a lot of their time on the execution. The ideal formula is where you blend the two. You've got foundation, strategy, execution. And interestingly enough, because I've now ran one of the most successful performance masterminds in the world for over a decade, is that the number one indicator of a person's results, the number one insight of a person's results stems from their foundation, their inner game, and specifically their worth barometer. The reason we're going to dive into that is because it's going to dramatically help you improve your results. As far as foundation goes, it covers areas such as focus, mindset, vision, mission, worth barometer, which is your beliefs and your self-esteem, and then goals. Then you've got strategy. It includes finding your ideal client, determining the strategies that are going to work, researching your ideal client, as well as the lead generation strategies to attract them. That's from a perspective of business, and then from a perspective of financial freedom, and that's going to teach you how to position your wealth, how to invest your money, how to make sure that you have enough, both now as well as in retirement. And then the final step is your execution, and this consists of the action you take each and every day. And it includes your business power hours, those 4 to 6 that we want to do every day, the personal power hours, 1 to 2, followed by those power breaks, and then the activities you need to complete each day, your T5. What are the 5 most important things you need to do today, tomorrow, every day? Every day you should identify those. It'll have a dramatic impact on your business. So let's dive into the next secret, which is your worth barometer. This is your beliefs and your self-esteem. In episode 105, we're diving deep into the worth barometer. But why is it so important? It's because it's the number one indicator of your success. Now, this is what's interesting about a worth barometer, is it indicates your wealth barometer. So I've spent the last 30 years advising the top 1% and 2% of millionaires. And what I've found in my research and in my advising and strategizing is that your worth barometer dictates your wealth barometer. Now, there are millionaires that have a low worth barometer, meaning they're just miserable people. They may lie, they may cheat, they may steal. And obviously we don't want to be like that. But what's even more interesting in addition to that is if you have a low worth barometer, as far as a millionaire, you're going to be broke, bankrupt, then money. It's going to be kind of like a roller coaster. And what we want to do is we want to be able to sustain it, where you have money, you have great relationships, you have peace of mind, and it's more stable, it's more steady. And that's why the worth barometer became so fascinating to me, is because I just started seeing it. And I couldn't figure out originally, like, wait a minute, shouldn't everyone that has a worth barometer, a healthy one, have money? If that's a priority to them, yes. But then should somebody that has money have a low one? There are a lot of people who have money that have a low worth barometer. And so the goal is to have a high worth barometer and have money. Have whatever you want so you can do what you want. So we're now going to dive into the grid. And I just want to say sometimes this triggers people. And especially if we dive into it and you feel kind of like you've been operating below the grid, it can trigger you. Trust me, I operated below the grid for probably the first 38 years of my life. I didn't even know there was a grid. And so if you don't know there is a grid, you can't hold yourself responsible. The reason we want to get you above the grid versus below the grid is it's impossible to have peace of mind and great relationships and really an amazing life if you're living below the grid. So the thing I'd encourage you to do is as you go through this, if you feel triggered by anything, just make a note of it, because that's where your opportunity lies. And just know that you can't beat yourself up. I mean, if you don't know there is a grid, you can't hold yourself responsible for living above the grid, right? In episode 109, we're diving deep into the grid. One of the questions I continue to get is, how can I tell where I am? What can I do about it? And I thought, well, gosh, I got to show people this. And so one of the things I realized when I started really analyzing our research is that we attract people where we are vibrationally or energetically. And I equate it to a radio station. Like if you're dialed into 100.7 and somebody else is dialed into 99.9, you're just on a different frequency. And so that's why being above the grid is important, because when we are above the grid, we attract people above the grid. When we're below the grid, we attract people below the grid. If you think about how you feel when, say you're at your favorite place, for me, it's being on the ocean, just sitting there looking at the ocean. I could do that for hours. And then you think about something that you don't really enjoy. And so just think about how you feel in both of those situations. Above the grid pulls us, below the grid pushes us. As Michael Beckwith said, you can't have what you want until vibrationally you're ready for it. If you get it, you're going to lose it. And all I can say is amen. And that sums up so much about the research I've done. Pain is going to push you until your vision pulls you. It's not about our spouse, our boss, political figures. It's really about us. And the more we get this, the more we're going to literally transform our business and our experience. So above the grid, there's different emotions on the grid. So above the grid, the emotional state is positive and optimistic, love, peace, joy. At the grid, you understand it, but you justify it or rationalize it, and the emotional state vacillates. You're in a good mood, and then you're not. And then below the grid, the emotional state is more pessimistic or negative, fear, anger, worry. Probably the biggest issue as far as the grid is when you're above the grid, you take ownership and responsibility. You do what you need to do to get the results you want. You focus on a win-win. When you're below the grid, you don't take ownership or responsibility. You're always blaming someone else. You're never happy. Like your life is just a miserable mess. And if you look at people who are below the grid, you'll see that. They don't take care of themselves, and then they don't make good decisions. They don't do what they need to do, and then they end up having a major problem because of it, and then they're looking to blame someone out there. They're the kind of clients or prospects that blow you off. They don't do what they're supposed to do, and then they're looking to blame someone else. So it's not ideal to be below the grid, because then we attract people below the grid. All right, the next one is making health a priority. Let's face it, without health, wealth means nothing. And there's nothing funny about having lunch and having a medical team out in the parking lot waiting in case you have a heart attack or stroke. This happened to me early in my career, and it was the most miserable experience I had, because over the course of time, I've interviewed people, I've seen people where they have just not made health a priority, and it's so uncomfortable. You cannot sit and enjoy a meal when a person starts coughing and you're like, oh my God, is he dying? I mean, it's not funny at all. There's a lot of executives where they have an emergency medical team in case they have another heart attack or stroke. My friends, we have to make health a priority. Yeah, money's important, but it's nothing without your health. It includes drinking 50% of your body weight ounces of water each day, stretching and yoga, cardiovascular exercise, and then a healthy diet. You can go to millionaireseries.com/basics, and there I provide you a ton of resources as far as things you can eat and take that I personally use. They're products that I have found that work extremely well to really keep us healthy and happy. And as we continue on our journey together, I'm going to share with you, my afternoon cacao maca latte, my morning matcha latte, things that I do that have had such an impact on my health. I mean, I grew up, I was always sick. And I remember thinking, I can't have an amazing life if I'm always going to be sick. Thank goodness I saw that early on. The next secret is creating amazing habits. In episode 111, we're going to dive into this. But our habits are formed by neural pathways, hardwired neural pathways. On average, it takes 66 days to create a habit, between 18 and 254. And the interesting thing about habits is that our old habit is always there. We just have to replace it with a new one, but then we have to keep doing the things we need to do so that we don't let the old one come back to surface. Setting goals is critical, and the best way you can set goals is I am or I active verb. I am an amazing mother. I weigh 125 pounds with ease. I am or I active verb. I earn $100,000 in year with ease. We're going to dive deep into not just setting goals, but how do you achieve goals? Because a lot of people will set goals, but the key isn't just setting them, it's achieving them. And I'm going to share with you how millionaires do it and how you can do it also. All right, the next insight is visualizing your ideal life, episode 123. Early in my career, I read a lot about visualization, and the whole concept is you have to see it before you can actually experience it. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, right. And so I did an experiment where I just had this dream. I grew up in the mountains. I wanted a mountain retreat. And so I found this picture of this cabin. And for 5 years, I would visualize that every single night. And I kid you not, our second home, which is up in the mountains, it's like literally my sanctuary. It's got my writing studio there. When we go for a walk at night and I look at that, I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what I visualized for 5 years. It works. And I share this with you not to brag, but I've been wanting to get a condo. I didn't want a house, I wanted a condo, because anyone that knows about living by the ocean, you don't want a house. You'll never enjoy your house. And I kid you not, 10 years I've been visualizing it. And a year ago, we found the perfect condo. Just ocean views in every room, mountain views, city views. It's just incredible. That, my friends, is the power of visualization. And we're going to talk about that in episode 123. So now, the next secret, the king and queen of wealth. Let's talk about the queen. So the queen of wealth is income. One thing that's so interesting about people is everyone brags about how much money they make. And it's like, oh, I made $1 million. And one of my peers, oh, he's made $1 million like every single year. We're on a call, and I said, so what's your net worth? Because net worth is king. He goes, what do you mean? I'm like how much money you have accumulated. He's like, I don't have any net worth. I'm like, no, let's go back over this. Like your savings account, your investments, your retirement, the equity in your house. I have no net worth. Like, I didn't believe him. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, to me, that was just, I couldn't believe it. He goes, no one has ever taught me that. Now, this guy was like 45. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. We've got to understand, my friends, I'm a lot more interested in what your net worth is than what your income is. So net worth, and we're going to dive into this when we dive into your balance sheet, but it's looking at all your assets. So you take all your assets less your liabilities, what you owe, like say on your mortgage or your say if you have a car, your loan on your car, and it nets out to be what your net worth is. I want you focused on that. Yes, income's important, but more importantly is what are you doing with that money to accumulate it? So critical, something that millionaires really, really get. And the next insight is cash is king. Now, right now, as I'm recording this, we are going through the coronavirus. And all I can say is the people that are winning right now have all the cash they need. And I'm probably too conservative, but I've got years. It's embarrassing to admit, but I'm probably more, my father went through the Great Depression. I started my career right in 1987, where people were literally jumping out of buildings, killing themselves because of the stock market. My options professor, I was getting my degree in finance, my options professor literally came into our classroom and he looked white and I thought somebody died. And he goes, I just wanted to let you know that I thought about killing myself this weekend and then I decided not to. And I was like, oh my gosh. And this was my favorite professor. The second day of class, he said, forget your books, go order a Wall Street Journal. And every day we traded options. Fast forward, when I took my Series 7, the woman, when I got the results, she goes, oh my God. And I thought she was going to say you failed. She goes, I have never in my 25 years seen a higher score. I got like a 98% on options. I knew options so well because he did such a phenomenal job of teaching them. But he said something really important that has stuck with me to this day. He said, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. I was a hog and I've literally lost everything. I was a waitress at the time in college, and one of the bankers that came in frequently to my restaurant, he said, this has been the worst time of my entire life. He said, I got as far as got into my garage. I turned on my car when I realized, okay, losing everything I do not need to commit suicide because I'm losing everything. And I just remember going, oh my God, this is terrible. And so we will get through this, my friends, but I will tell you having enough cash is critical. Now, for some of you, as you're on your journey, you're going to want to invest in real estate. I've made millions in real estate. I get it. And even though that's not my first choice of making money, and we'll dive into why, it's a lot of work. If you're going to especially have rentals, or you're going to have assets that require potential, like right now, people aren't paying rent. Right now, if something breaks, you got to fix it. You've got to have cash. So depending on how you're invested and how much guaranteed income you have coming in each month, you may need more cash, but just be aware of it. If you have a business, you need more cash. So whether it's 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, 4 years, whatever it is. And obviously, most people recommend 6 months. I personally think if you're a business owner, I like more in the tune of 12 months. But again, you got to look at your situation and make a decision. And if you're more diversified in where your money is, it's easier to have it be in, say, for instance, cash and then short-term maturities. So early in my career, one of my mentors said to me, he said, cash is king. And he said, it's your go-to HELL fund. And he actually said it out. And at the time I was so offended. I'm like, that's so offensive, that language, blah, blah, blah. But then I started thinking about it. And I thought, why it's important is because it gives us a choice of what to do, where to go, who to serve, where to live, and much more. When we have a pandemic, when we have a downturn like we have right now, we have a choice. We have a choice. Do I feel like going to my other home in the mountains, which I can still get to, or do I feel like working? You have a choice, and that's what I want you to have is a choice. If you want to work, great. I work because I want to work. In fact, if I didn't have my work, I don't know what I would do. It gives me so much meaning and so much value. And as you start accumulating money, you get to a certain point and you still work, you know you're in the right job. Because when you have passion for what you do and you really get clear on that level 3 why, which we're going to dive deep into one of the episodes, everything changes. Everything. You have an entire mission of why you're here. And that, my friends, is where I want you to get. And then last but most certainly not least, millionaires know their money, and you need to know your money. You've got to know where your money is, and you've got to know your balance sheet. Every year you should be doing a balance sheet. Don't worry, we're going to dive into that. I'll give you mine. You're going to have my master budget. That determines your cash flow, what comes in, what goes out. You got to know your insurance, your taxes. You've got to know your money, my friends. And knowing your money is going to be one of the best things you could ever do. Ever, ever, ever do. So if you want more insight on how millionaires do business, life, and money differently so you can get on a direct flight and achieve your goals, I encourage you to subscribe. That'll give you notification each time we have a new episode. And now what I want to share with you is for some of you who want additional support, meaning maybe your mindset, your foundation's not where you want it to be, you can go to millionaireseries.com/mindset, and there you can watch my training on the 3 insider secrets you need to win in business, life, and money. And I dive into the foundation, the strategy, and the execution, really what you need to do to have that foundation so you can achieve whatever you want. So again, you can go to millionaireseries.com/mindset. So on that note, my friends, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the 12 Millionaire Insider Secrets you need to succeed. I thank you so much for joining me. Again, if you enjoyed this material, you want more, please subscribe. And I would love to hear from you. I personally am going to be reading comments. I want to hear where you need support, what's working, what's not, because if you give me the insight, I can then provide the content you need to really help you. I'm looking so forward to providing a lot of the research I've done in the areas of like master budget. How do you create a budget so that you know what your wants and needs are? How do you create a plan that can work regardless of what's going on out in the world economy? And those are things that I am committed to providing you. So thank you so much for tuning in. This is Annette Ba'u, host of the Millionaire Insider. Bye now.